Oregon law governing motorists passing bicycles has gone through significant changes since the 2007 legislature changed the law to make Oregon a national leader in providing a model statute on how to do it safely. But before we go into the new law, let's talk a little bit about the bad old days, which required that a motorist provide a safe distance to a bicyclist when passing and only return to the lane of travel after having safely passed the bicyclist. The problem from us bicyclists' perspective was that the motorist would frequently do what we call buzzing us. And what that meant was that they would pass us with so little distance that we would be caught up in the wind and the debris and the stuff flying around. And even for inexperienced riders, sometimes when the passing maneuver would occur, the inexperienced driver would be so shaken up that they'd actually go off of the roadway and maybe have an accident themselves. So the Oregon legislature in 2007 changed the law, and what they did was they created a new type of law that did not exist before, and is actually an excellent example of what could be a national model. Because the new law requires that a motorist pass a bicycle and give the bicyclist enough room so that if the bicyclist was to fall over as the pass maneuver occurs, the motorist must not touch the bicyclist, even though the bicyclist is now lying flat on the road in the roadway. What that means is that you can tell from common sense, what the bicyclist must receive is the distance between the bottom of the tire to the top of the bicyclist's head, with the bicyclist flopped over on the road, as a distance between the motorist and the bicyclist each and every time. However, the law, which went into effect in 2008, does have a limitation in that motorists are only required to provide that much room when the speed limit is above 35 miles an hour, which allows motorists in a dense urban environment to provide less space to bicyclists because everyone is somewhat crowded together in a low-speed situation. But out on a two-lane blacktop roadway, for example, or on the highway, motorists must not pass unless they give us that much room. And they're also allowed to come closer to us when we're turning left and they're going around the right side of us, because under that situation they're usually going at a considerably lower rate of speed because they've slowed down somewhat when they go around us. Now, do not be confused by this, but the reason that I say that this is an improvement over other laws is because in a number of states, including, for example, California, much to do was made when they passed a law that said that a motorist must give a bicyclist 3 feet of space when they pass. However, if you think about it, what it would be like to be passed at a high rate of speed by a large truck when they only provide you 3 feet of space is a pretty scary experience. On the other hand, if one is to look at the way that the Oregon pass maneuver is supposed to be conducted, you'll see that even on a fairly high-speed highway situation, the motorist gives considerably more room to the bicyclists before they pass when they provide the proper legal limit.
Again, this photo illustrates that if the cyclists were riding just inside the white line and were to fall over, then his head would end up at least in the left tire track, if not farther.
And if you think about it, from the law enforcement perspective, it's a lot easier under the new law than under the old Oregon law for a police officer to see a motorist crowding a bicyclist during a pass such that the bicyclist is not being provided sufficient space so that the police can then ticket the motorist. because it's not a question of, well, was it a safe or an unsafe distance? The police officer can testify in traffic court after giving a ticket to the driver that the driver was not sufficiently far out such that if the bicyclist had fallen over, the bicyclist would not have been touched by the vehicle. And that's the only proof that's necessary for a conviction of the new passing law, which is contained at ORS 811.065.
The driver of a motor vehicle may only pass a person operating a bicycle by driving to the left of the bicycle at a safe distance and returning to the lane of travel once the motor vehicle is safely clear of the overtaken bicycle. For the purposes of this paragraph, a safe distance means a distance that is sufficient to prevent contact with the person operating the bicycle if the person were to fall into the driver's lane of traffic. This paragraph does not apply to a driver operating a motor vehicle in a lane that is separate from the bicycle lane and adjacent to the designated bicycle lane, at a speed not greater than 35 miles an hour, or when the driver is passing a person operating a bicycle on the person's right side and the person operating the bicycle is making a left turn. For the full text of the statutes mentioned and much more information, go to Pedal Power, a legal guide for Oregon bicyclists.